Who has the busiest rhymes ever known by man?
Checking. Here's what I found on the web. Kick it.
Howdy YouTube, Cord Campbell, back again today with another Fusion application. If you will navigate to lucidworks.com/labs, you can follow along with this video, or you can just watch me on the train if you like. I have been working on the SKG Demo for a little while. We had one that ran for 4.0.2, but it wasn't that great, so I went back and sort of ported it over to using 4.1.0. So to get started, I'm going to click on the link, and that's going to take me to the application detail page. Now to start this application, to start an instance of this application, you're going to click on the Launch Now button, and then you're going to click on Launch Now with your GitHub account. If you haven't done this before, it's going to take you over to GitHub. It's going to ask you to log in. It's going to bring you back. It might ask you for your email address. If GitHub doesn't give that to us, we might send you an email or two. Nothing big. We're not going to bother you too much. That's just there so that we know who you are and what you're doing with our servers. So once you're into this instance view, this is now we're over on streams.lucidworks.com. You can click on one of two links. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to copy the password. You're also going to note that the IP address is down here. You're going to need that here in just a second because we're going to jump into a shell and do some queries with curl. So I'm going to click on the Fusion admin link, and that's going to take me over to log into Fusion. I'm going to paste that in here. I'm going to click on the card, and then I'm going to be taken into the Fusion admin panel, and then I'm going to navigate to indexing and data sources. And then I'm going to go to physics_stack exchange, which is what the data source is called. And I'm going to go in here and I'm going to explain a little bit about what's going on here. So this particular crawler that I've created, or web source, is crawling physics.stackexchange.com. And now I've set all this up to be very kind to Stack Exchange. So it doesn't crawl it particularly fast. It's about 1 a second or so, maybe slightly less than a second between page fetches, which is what they recommend when you're crawling them. So be sure you keep it that way. We don't want to hurt their site. They provide a lot of useful information to people. In this particular example, what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this to cooking, because that's what the example uses. I like the physics one. It really produces some interesting results. They also have a fairly large corpus if you're willing to wait long enough. That's sort of why I'm changing it to cooking, is because we can get faster results with cooking. No pun intended. And then I'm going to click on Run and then Start. And then that's going to start the crawler. And as is typical of most of these demos that I do, I'm going to jump over into the query workbench, and I'm going to do a little query. And then I always get really nervous right here because I'm thinking, is it working? Is it not working? Well, it's working. It looks like it's working. So we've got 17 documents so far. So I'm going to kill some time by explaining that we need to change the display fields here. And I'm going to change those to the top one being the hyperlink, the question hyperlink _T, which we're doing an extraction of that field from the Stack Exchange pages. And then the other one is the post text, which is a concatenated version of all of the post text on the page. But for the most part, you can see we're just pulling back just text, which is really what we need for the SKG functionality. This relatedness functionality can be viewed by going to the Solr 7.5 facet API methods, and then scrolling down and looking at the relatedness options. I'll put a link in the post so that you can get to this. But if you're interested in how this was working, this is what it's based on. And they give you an example here. But just for reference, so that in case you're interested in digging into how this works a little bit more, you can go check it out. So what I'm going to do now, though, is I'm going to go back to the page where I started this. And then I'm going to click on the application link. And in this particular case, I built a very lame web app which contains code that you can then cut and paste. So that's exactly what I'm going to do right now, is I'm going to copy this, and then I'm going to jump over into my shell, and I'm going to do query, vi query.sh, and then I'm going to paste all this code in here. Now, if you're not a bash expert, no worries here. I'll explain a little bit. These dollar signs indicate the parameters that you're calling. So I actually give you a reference down here. So this is how you're going to call it. So I'm going to do that manually. Now what I'm going to need is I'm going to need the IP address. So I'm going to type in bash and then query, which I just edited. And then I'm going to paste in, no, that's not what I wanted. Well, unintended results sometimes. So I'm going to copy this and try it again here. So bash query. Yep. And then the term, well, now we're dealing with cooking. So I'm going to look for sugar, I guess. And then I'm going to ask for results in descending order. And then I'm going to go ahead and pipe it into Python and the JSON tool. Now you don't have to do that, but I like doing that because it'll format it nicely. And we get back the result. Now I will note that I've done this exact same query here. So you can see those same results over here. I did drop out this bottom part, which is the response header out of the example here, but you can see it here. It's a little messy, but that's basically the query that you're doing. And if you can see now here, what's happened, we've gotten back 50 results here, so I'm scrolling back through them. And I'm going to go back and I'm going to check Fusion real quick. I just want to see how many documents I have back. I have 234 documents already. I've been talking a while. And you can see I've gotten back some interesting results. I've gotten back sugar and cream and powdered. Well, I mean, powdered sugar is a thing, right? I'm not sure about sour. Maybe that's an inverse thing. Sour, sweet. Syrup. Yeah, sure enough, there's sweet right there. Honey. Opposite. That's kind of interesting. Mix. Salt. Milk. What I need to do is pull up the cooking.stackexchange. And we're going to go look at seasoned advice. And I'm going to search for one of these things. So I'm going to search for powdered. If I can spell it. And well, we got powdered egg. Well, here it is, powdered sugar. Maybe I can search for sugar too. Now there you go, powdered sugar. So you can see why powdered and sugar are together is because this relatedness function measures the weight between these two. But here's the interesting part, is that what I can actually do is I can ask for this in ascending order, which means it's going to start with the lowest relatedness value first, and then it's going to crank up from there. And if you scroll up and you look at this, you're going to see some negative values. I feel like I'm scrolling forever there. And sure enough, there's a negative value, but you can see it's cook. So that's really what that negative means, is it's sort of not related, but they are related, but they're not. They're not directly related. Sugar is related to something that you cook, for example. The A here, well, that's really what we call a stop word, but we don't have a way to filter those out right now in this, at least not that I know about. So you sort of have to scroll through these. But what that's indicating is essentially a bunch of stop words that we do define up front when we crawl are not related to this concept. But if we keep on going, you can see oven is here. So I'm going to do this again, but this time I'm going to pipe it through grep, and I'm going to grep out values so we can just see the values. And I just want you to take a look at that. These things are bang on related to sugar as far as the corpus is concerned. And I really think that's the most interesting thing about this. If you want to use this in what you're doing with search and what you're doing with Fusion, and you can start extracting related terms for your customers. Now it depends on your corpus. Again, I'm using a really basically a high quality corpus, which is the Stack Exchange site. Those are being generated by humans. But you can see here that I'm able to pull back some stuff that's really interesting, and you should be able to do that with your corpus as well. If you're interested in getting in there and using it with your own data, there's some examples on the Solr site that cover that. And well, we're also always available if you want to talk to us about it. I'd love to hear your comments and thoughts, so be sure and reach out to us. And I certainly don't want to forget giving us a thumbs up if you think this video was valuable and you found it useful. And be sure and subscribe to the channel and click on that little bell if you want to get notifications. We've been posting a ton of videos coming out of Activate, and I'm really excited about the direction we're going with our video production. And I really appreciate you sticking through to the end of the video. I'm Cord Campbell, and I hope you have a great one.
Made by this tongue, he'll tell you now my name is Siri. So you think that it's your destiny to get the best of me, but I suggest to be quiet, don't even try it, at least and best of me. Taking it and never breaking it, or even shaking it, breathing it and always moving it, as I'm not faking it, pulling out rhymes like books off the shelf. Born in England, taught to go for myself. This is stone cold rhyming, no frills, no fluffs, and it's no accident that these rhymes sound tough. I'm I got no hair. Party people. Bust it.